Hey everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon, and I'm joined today by J. Christopher King. Hey Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, James?
I'm good. I'm glad you're here with me. And for everybody watching and listening, of course we're here. We're going to be talking about an inquiry into anomalous experiences and the phenomenon. It's an upcoming event in New York City, Saturday, October 8th. And you can join in through the live stream or in person, which is actually a pretty rare event because there's never events like this on the East Coast, especially in New York City. So we're really excited and happy to be able to bring an event like this into the heart of New York City and one of the biggest cities in the world.
Absolutely. I think it's gonna be an amazing collection of people. The people, just since we put the in-person tickets up for sale late on Sunday, so just days ago, we've already moved through over half the tickets. Less than 50 tickets remain, but the people that have been reserving the tickets, we probably should mention names here, but it's just going to be an amazing constellation of people. If you've been following this field for a while, if you've been following anomalous studies in general and ufology, you're going to know a lot of the people that are in this room, and it's going to be a really unique and intimate experience with only 125 tickets available total.
Yeah, and I had a few researchers reach out to me and say how excited they are going to be coming to the event. So it's going to be great to actually meet them in person. And we did, since we announced at the beginning, Ralph Blumenthal had a scheduling conflict, so he's no longer able to participate this time. However, we did, alter, or I could say even augment the event, and it's actually become a lot more interesting now. I wish Ralph could be there, but it also created an opportunity where we're able to really kind of reformulate the event a little. Do you want to talk about that, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It was unfortunate, and we look forward to being able to have Ralph at an event or events in the future. He's one of my favorite people. I love his writing, and I just love his energy. But we heard from him, and James and I just scrambled, and we were like, okay, what are we gonna do? Who can we bring in here? And so we put a call out to some of our favorite researchers, our favorite writers, podcasters, and others. And it kind of came together like Voltron or something like that. All of a sudden, one person needed to walk out the door, and we brought in 4 more people onto the bill, which is really, really exciting. So, of course, up at the top of the bill, Dr. Garry Nolan remains. And I think many of the people that have been listening to this channel for a while, you probably know who Garry Nolan is. James, of course, interviewed Garry some months back. It was an amazing interview. He's done amazing interviews with people like Lex Friedman and others. And of course, he's the noted Ratchford and Carlotta Harris Professor in the Department of Pathology at Stanford University School of Medicine. He's published over 300 research articles, is the holder of 40 U.S. patents, and has been honored as one of the top 25 inventors at Stanford University. And so we continue to be absolutely honored and thrilled that Garry Nolan's going to be hanging out with us that day and live in person in New York City for a really, really rare opportunity for us to talk about anomalous experiences and the phenomenon. And that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and the timing is really interesting, and it's just something that kind of happened. Dr. Nolan has really come to the forefront in the whole phenomenon or disclosure conversation, almost out of nowhere, right? I mean, like a few months ago, he was kind of there, but now, he's on mainstream television, not holding many punches, really. Obviously, he can talk about what he can talk about, but as an academic, as noted in American Cosmic, the academics are very open, and they want to have the public discourse and conversation. So he's very much talking in that light and being very open, not just about the phenomenon, but the ideas and different perspectives to bring to it. And it's going to be incredible to have him there.
Absolutely. And it's a good thing that you brought up American Cosmic, because, of course, Dr. Diana Pasulka's classic book, American Cosmic, that came out a few years back, she at the time, just to remind people, she at the time had to use pseudonyms for some of the key players in her book. And one of those key figures that she wrote about so heavily in American Cosmic was Dr. Garry Nolan under a pseudonym. And so he has recently kind of come out and said, yeah, that was me. And so it's really amazing, as somebody that's come out as an experiencer myself, and, as it often is in this field, to just kind of put your reservations aside and come forward and say, I'm really, really invested. I'm really involved in this field. This means a lot to me. For Garry to have done something like that is super cool. And it's also an amazing opportunity to hang out with somebody that for years there was kind of a secretive figure in a way. If you'd read Diana's book and were wondering, like, who are these people? What are their lives like? What do they do day to day? And what have they really done? Who are they really? It'll be really cool to have the opportunity to share space and time with Garry as a group together. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that on Ross Coulthurt's and Bryce Zabel's documentary / podcast special, that he really went out there on a limb and talked about a few of his experiences, like, very openly. So again, that congratulations to him, basically, for having the courage to do that. But also at the event we added 2 co-hosts.
That's right. Yeah. The first of those co-hosts would be Priscilla Stone from the wonderful Quantum Witch Cafe. You might know her as well as being involved in the Anomalous podcast network with That UFO Podcast and Disclosure Team and others. And she's just she's an amazing human being. She comes at it she has a really unique angle in the field, and it's just a pleasure. I'm a guest. I'm a regular panelist on her UAP book club, her monthly book club episodes, and it'll be wonderful. She just moved to the East Coast, so we were able to take that momentum of her moving out to the East Coast to have her join us as a co-host, and I couldn't be more thrilled. She's a wonderful person to hang out with, and she's, again, just a really unique, thoughtful voice, and it's great to have her in the community.
Yeah, I love Priscilla, and again, she has the even name Quantum Witch, right? It's kind of like she's super knowledgeable on like UFOs per se, and she knows some nuts and bolts stuff, but she also very much into the metaphysical stuff. So she has a really good balance, and I like the way she's discerning, and she doesn't jump one way or the other. She's really grounded, but she understands the very abstract concepts as well.
Absolutely. And our other new co-host is Kelly Chase from the UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. It's a newer podcast from this last year. It's a great podcast. I really enjoy Kelly. She's super fun, really thoughtful, and again, another unique voice in our community. She comes at things similarly, in a similarly grounded place. She's really kind of looking through the lore, the history of ufology and the phenomenon, and she's just put together this incredibly prepared, thought out podcast, and it's really cool to see. And I'm looking forward to meeting her in person. I haven't met her in person yet. Have you, James?
No, I haven't. But I'm really comfortable now knowing that we're working with 2 people smarter than us.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's important to, like that brain that's up there at the top, like we had to throw that in there because we don't have enough between the 2 of us. But with Kelly and Priscilla on board now,
Yeah,
now I think we have the intellectual firepower to make this event really pop off.
for sure. Yeah, and we also have some new guests. Do you want to talk about some of the new guests we added?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so first off, and this is really exciting, we have Mitch Horowitz joining us. Mitch Horowitz is a PIN award-winning historian whose books include the really amazing Occult America and his newest book, Daydream Believer. Among other publications, Mitch has written for the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Time, and Politico. He also shows up on the History Channel on shows like The Unexplained. He's even shown up on Ancient Aliens. Yeah, you've probably seen him before, and he's a brilliant orator, an incredibly thoughtful speaker, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him. James?
Yeah, and I would say like anybody who is in the UFO field who's not familiar with Mitch's work, I think you do yourself a great service to go check out some of his stuff. Um, he's done some incredible talks at like the Theosophical Society, and I remember the first time hearing him talk, and I'm like, wow. I mean, to me, into contact and metaphysics, like I instantly see the connection. So for people who aren't as in depth in that yet, I think that it'll be clear to why Mitch is a really strong component of this conversation, especially going forward. He just wrote an article about ESP, and I remember a few months ago, I remember him saying something about research with random number generators. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. So if you want to consider slide 9, this is right up that alley, actually.
Absolutely. I think he's a really important voice in the community in the larger kind of field of anomalous studies. And he has been for quite some time. And it's really, that's one of the unique things about what we're trying to do with this conference and events in general moving forward, is being able to really bring more dialogue, fresher voices. And, there's the old story about the 6 blind men that are touching an elephant from all sides, and they're all trying to describe the elephant, but all they have is just a piece. One of the blind men is like touching the leg of the elephant, and others got the snout or whatever. And, they can't quite put the full picture together. And so I think having people like Mitch on board for events like this can really help us kind of open up and have a bigger tent and be able to have more thoughtful conversations that can approach these topics from more perspectives, really. And I look forward to having them there. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And we also we added one more speaker. Do you want to talk about Sean?
Sure. Yeah. Dr. Sean Esbjörn-Hargens. Amazing guy. Super brilliant thinker. Dr. Esbjorn-Hargens is Dean of Integral Education and Integral Noetic Sciences, Program Director at the California Institute for Human Sciences. Among other concentrations, he oversees a completely trailblazing new MA PhD program focusing on anomalous studies. Now, this is really, really unique and almost without precedent. It's like Jeffrey Kripal's program and Dr. Esbjorn-Hargens' program in the United States anyway, in terms of like who's really pushing anomalous studies forward and pushing these topics forward from an academic framework at a kind of program level. There are a lot of unique academics like Garry who are kind of their own island in a way. And then there are people like Sean and Jeff that are creating whole new departments at institutions for subjects like these. And that's incredibly exciting. So I'm really looking forward to what Sean's going to bring to the table that day at the conference. Wouldn't you say, James?
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage anybody to go look up Sean, his work. He's done an interview with Jeffrey Mishlove. And, I remember the first time I heard Sean talk, I was blown away. I'm like, where has this guy been? Like, how come this guy's not all over the conversation? Like, this guy is somebody who should be, and I get it. I know he's like so busy doing his own stuff, but I think, people are going to be kind of blown away by the depth and thought and insight that he brings to the conversation. It's like, to me, it's a no-brainer. And this is somebody that I think should be more heavily in the conversation, especially with where the conversation is going nowadays. So, it's incredible to have him on board. And, we really lucked out that he's participating.
We really absolutely lucked out. He's usually booked months and if not years in advance because of all the different conferences that he does. He's also really active in the philosophy space. He's active in ecological studies and integral theory. So this guy gets around in terms of conferences, and we're just really, really lucky that he had an opening and was interested in being able to join us. He was actually super psyched to be able to join us that day. And that makes me psyched as well. The feeling's mutual for sure.
Yeah. And again, I think, having this conversation in one of the biggest cities in the world and in the heart of New York City, where I think we're really, pushing the envelope in regards as the kind of dialogue that we're having with anomalous experiences, but especially in regards to the phenomenon. And I think we're connecting a lot of dots here, which I think that it's going to make a lot of sense afterwards. But for some people who are more on the nuts and bolts side that may not be familiar with some of these people, I think in retrospect, it's going to be like, oh my God, this is kind of like, where have these people been? So I think these are going to be, great conversations. And, I really hope that going forward, we see a lot more conversations like this that are more inclusive and expansive. And I think that's kind of what we're doing here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we continue to also have Darren ExoAcademian on the conference bill of the wonderful Point of Convergence podcast. Super thoughtful guy. He also co-hosts Liminal Frames with our good mutual friend Nathan. Both amazing podcasts. Brilliant thinker. And it's actually going to be his first time doing a public talk on this field. His first public talk in person. He was a guy people didn't even know what his face looked like until he showed up on your show, James. And I remember that was a wild experience, wasn't it?
It was awesome. And that was the first time I saw his face, like talking with him. So, if people are convinced he's one of the others, I mean, he still may be. I'm not counting that out yet. I'm not ruling that out ever. But if it's going to be amazing to have him in his first in person. And honestly, even though he's kind of been in the field a little while now, he's been doing his podcast. I think he's really even now blossoming out even more and really getting his feet in the sand, so to speak.
Absolutely. And so again, another unique name, somebody that people are going to be hearing about for years. Absolutely, no doubt. With the work that he has coming up and the things that he's been working on behind the scenes that are going to be coming up in the future, like people are going to know Darren Exo for quite a while, and being able to be there the first time that he's out on stage will be really cool. I think that'll be really unique and fun. So anybody seeing this online or in person, just it's another aspect where we're really trying to put together something that's building towards the future, and I think it's going to be a unique opportunity, and people are going to be able to look back and say that they were there, and either online or in person, and it'll be.
I mean, I even feel like that. You know what I mean? Like,
me too. Yeah.
So that's what's really awesome. And of course we still have Tim Grieve-Carlson. Has he done public talks on the phenomenon before?
He has, but only in the context of institutionally through Rice. He hasn't done like the conference circuit with regard to us. He's spoken at conferences but mainly I think in the ecological space. you know,
Right.
and with regard to like philosophy and religious studies. But I don't know that he's done a talk in this space. It might be a first as well, you know.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, Dr. Tim Grieve-Carlson, he's assistant professor in the Department of Religion and Philosophy out at Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. He earned his PhD in religious studies from Rice University earlier this year, where he worked on the Archives of the Impossible project with Professor Jeffrey J. Kripal. And he is just a real intellectual powerhouse, a brilliant guy who already has a really interesting book manuscript that's going to be published soon on environmental phenomena, anomalous phenomena that was encountered by the early settlers of North America and how it was interpreted historically back in the day, and which I think is like really fascinating subject material. Wouldn't you think, James?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's going to be an honor to meet him. I'm again, that's somebody else. I'm really glad he's coming out and participating with us. And you know, it's amazing that we have all these people coming together in the same space. You know, let alone in New York City, right?
Right.
I think this is definitely this conference is going to really expand the conversation. In a really powerful way. And I think that, you know, again, people are going to definitely agree with us after they see all the work.
Absolutely. And so I was talking to Tim the other day, and he is planning to do his talk on kind of a contemporary context and update with regard to environmental phenomenon, anomalous phenomenon, and the ties to ecology and ecological issues and ecological problems, and like, you know, these nexus points where the phenomenon is seen near, like, say, disaster areas or nuclear zones, things like this. It seems like that's going to come into play a little bit. These hotspots of ecological issues, and that they seem to be of interest to anomalous phenomenon as well. And so it'll be cool to hear his perspective that way. It'll be a new piece. Like he won't have published anything about it. It'll be the first time that he'll be rolling it out. And so it'll be really cool to hear what he's got going along that way. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And it's possible, again, possible we may do a few talks on the channel prior to. So I'm really looking forward to that. I also want to, you know, encourage everybody to participate and support the event. You know, this is our first event that we're ever putting together. We're kind of just like two random research experiencers, you know, who have been, you know, committed in the field. But this is the first time we're doing something like this. And again, you know, on the East Coast, there aren't discussions like this going on in a public setting. And I mean, for years, I thought to myself, like, why not? You know, I wish I had the chance to go out and go to events like this. You know, for years I'd wanted to do that. So, you know, what we're providing an opportunity here for people to be able to do that. You know, of course, there's going to be like great talks and lectures and stuff, but you know, especially if you're coming in person, you're going to meet all these other researchers there.
Absolutely.
And I think there's going to be a real cohesion there, and the chance to network and speak to some of these other researchers and form, you know, new connections. So, you know, I think that's a really, you know, a powerful thing, especially again here on the East Coast, where, in my opinion, there should be things going on like this on the regular.
Absolutely.
Especially with how far the conversation has come, you know, not just with UAP, right? But again, I'm going to say slide 9. If you read slide 9, you know, has anomalous experiences kind of written all over it, right? I mean, that really, in my opinion, has opened up the conversation a lot. So,
Absolutely.
you know, I really encourage people to support the event, share, participate in any way you're able to.
Absolutely. And again, you know, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this update today, partially to update you on the lineup of speakers that we've got that day, which is super exciting, but also just to let you know, again, we've just put the in-person tickets up on Sunday. We've already moved through over half of them. So this is also kind of a service announcement that we have less than 50 tickets left in person. So if you're interested in coming, regardless of whether you're in New York City, if you're in New Jersey, if you're upstate, if you're in Pennsylvania, anywhere around here, we know people that are going to be coming in from Baltimore. We know people that are coming in from Ohio. We know people that have flown in recently from the UK that are psyched about coming. Like, people are coming from all over. So, if you're committed to making this happen, I'm sure that, where there's a will, there's a way. And on top of that, for those of you that are considering joining us online, like James was saying, we're just two guys, two independent researchers putting this together. There's no venture capitalist money behind this. There's no corporation behind this effort. And we're doing it in not only one of the most populated cities in the country, we're also doing it in one of the most expensive. And so putting together an effort like this is an extraordinary challenge. So if you support the idea of events like these happening now and in the future, if you support the work that James does, or the work that I even do, and the work of the wonderful speakers here, I strongly encourage folks to consider getting those online tickets just as soon as humanly possible, so that we can continue to make this event as good as we can, and so that we have what we need to be able to make more affordable, leading edge events in the future for all of you, and continue to be able to make free content as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really psyched about the event. We're like about a month out now, so it's coming really soon. And again, I encourage everybody to participate. And I'm really grateful for everybody who signed on and who's going to be participating in the event, as far as the speakers and the co-hosts. I'm really grateful that everybody's helping kind of as a community to put this event together. So we're very grateful, and we hope to see you guys there.
Absolutely. We absolutely look forward to seeing you live and online on Saturday, October 8th, for an inquiry into anomalous experiences in the phenomenon. So with that, I think we'll call it a day. Great to see you all, and we hope to see you very soon.
Take care.
Take care.